be publicized and networking from there. So without wasting much time, I would like to call Dr. Idris, and you know him, many of you know him. He basically from Nigeria, but completed his study and then completed his PhD from Malaysia itself. And after that, he worked in University Malaya, postdoctoral fellow, and then joined Lincoln University College as a biotechnology faculty member. I think last more than 7 years he is with us, and now he is being a professor, and he has lots of publications in Scopus, and also edited book in Springer and Nova, Springer, I think, not Nova, Springer, and all is Scopus index. He has also many Q1 publications as well in his portfolio. So without wasting much time, you can read his CV in board. I am calling Dr. Idris to start his session. Thank you. Welcome, Dr. Idris. Anything you feel problem, you just contact with me. We are here. Here is Tati.
Thank you very much, Prof. Sandeep, for the beautiful introduction. And of course, good morning. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi to everyone.
I received.
So I recognize the presence of our BBC academics and all our profs, and of course our collaborators and colleagues. So as Prof. Sandeep said, so the goal of this session is just to have a kind of interactive session. So it's not going to be a kind of didactic or just someone giving lecture and then feel bored. So it's just for me to share some of my experiences and of course to interact and share knowledge. So if you have any contribution to make even during the course of my talk, you can just specify and make such contributions. So in the next couple of minutes, so I'll be talking about So I'll be sharing on beyond silos, so systems thinking as a foundation for transdisciplinary research. So because the goal of research is to solve problems. So we always have challenges in our society. So as a researcher, so our goal, or the ultimate goal, is to solve these problems. That whenever we encounter problems in our society, so we have to come up, with an impact-oriented research that will be able to solve the problems. Because each environment or each place we have, different kind of challenges. So that's why we have to be able to come up with. So the content of my sharing will just be, I will be talking about maybe we need to understand the meaning of what is meant by systems thinking. So what is meant by transdisciplinary approaches, and of course overcoming silos in science. So as a brief introduction, so why beyond silos? Why does it matter? So why does it matter? So if you look at the modern, in our modern day, there are a lot of common challenges that we face. So from climate change, so we talk about the pandemics. We can also remember what happens during the COVID-19 pandemics. So when a lot of places were locked down, so we can still recall. So we can still recall we have a lot of health inequities. So not everybody have access to health. So digital transformation, food security, to mention but a few. So if you look at all these things, so we see that they are complex. Not only complex, but they are also interconnected. And of course dynamic. They are not static. Things keep changing every now and then. So when we look at all these challenges that I've highlighted, of course I might not be able to highlight all of them, just to give some examples only. So one thing, or few things that are very common to all of them is the fact that they do not respect, respect any kind of disciplinary boundaries. So what do I mean by this? So if you look at it deeply, you can see that it's not something that you can address just from one discipline. So you have to look at it from multi perspectives, from the perspective of scientists, from the perspective of economists, from the perspective of environmentalists and so on and so forth. So it has to be a kind of, different disciplines. And when we talk about this, you realize that a lot of actors will be involved, from scientists to policymakers, to communities, to industries. So all this, so one thing that is also very unique is that the fact that they are shaped by the kind of feedback and a lot of uncertainty as well as unintended consequences. But quite unfortunate. So most of our researches that we do in the university, so they are done individually, in silos. So you don't see scientists communicating with each other to solve real problems. So most of our researches or our works, they are still like fragmented. So someone from the biochemistry is doing something related to biochemistry. Someone from the nursing is just doing research only from nursing perspective. Someone from education only focusing on education. So we are not, communicating together. We are not working together to solve real society problems. So everyone is like a kind of linear problem-solving approaches, just from your own perspective. So we have this kind of situation. So having said that much, so we also need to understand what is meant by silos. So when we say silos, it actually refers to isolated structure of knowledge. Because the essence of research, or when we come to the university, so we want to create new knowledge. So that is the goal. So we want to create new knowledge, new information. But when we do it individually, so it's going to be a kind of limited perspective. So you have isolated structure of knowledge creation from different institutions and practices. So where all the disciplines, they operate and actually do their own independently. So you can see that the communication among different fields, very minimal, if at all, if it exists. Sometimes it doesn't even exist. And if it does, it only does in a very minimal approach. So different fields, different disciplines, they don't communicate. So, and that is why the solutions that are provided by different fields are very partial from just one perspective. So they are not actually solving, they are not impact oriented. So, and what are the consequences of this? So if you continue to do this, and that is, there is one thing that is saying that if you want to get a different result, then you have to come up with a new solution. You cannot be applying the same method and be expecting a different solution. So if you want to come up with research, impact-oriented researches that solve real problems, then we have to also think beyond the kind of silos that we are operating at the moment. So what are the consequences of this kind of siloed approaches? So it's a kind of reductionism. So the solution is very reduced. It's not really, it won't make the kind of impact that it's supposed to make. So because why? Just now when I was talking about some of the challenges that we have, the pandemics, and so on, the climate change, you can see that these problems, they are complex. But now this complex problem, when you look at it from a reductionist approach, it is oversimplified. And policy failure also due to unintended consequences. So the people that are supposed to make, the policy makers, they don't see any impact in the kind of research we are doing, because it's very myopic. And that you also have a lot of inefficiency and of course a lot of duplication of efforts. You see people repeating the same thing that other people have done. So it doesn't make any impact. And this is the kind of situation we have found ourselves. So also poor translation. The researches are not translated. They are just, if you look at the libraries, a lot of theses just lying down. Of course, people would have put in a lot of efforts, but these efforts are not translated to meaningful, life or impact-oriented, solutions. So let me give us a few examples. But let's say you want to talk about hypertension, for instance. So if you look at this kind of, this is one of the commonest problems of this recent generation. So a lot of people are hypertensive. But if you want to solve this kind of problem, and you are looking at it only from the clinical treatment approaches alone, you are not solving the problem. So what about the other social determinants of health? The terms of the social, the economics, in terms of the behavioral factors, our lifestyle, what kind of life. So if you are just, you want to treat the problems, so the clinical alone will not be enough. So you need to look at the lifestyle of the individuals that are involved. What are the environmental stressors that are responsible for this malady, this problem? And you also need to look at the access to health, in terms of health system organization. So, having said that much, so what do we actually mean by systems thinking? Of course, from our elementary biology, so we know what a system is. You have a collection of tissues and organs, so working together to, for a specific purpose. So we have to look at also, that from that. So system thinking is an approach that focuses on wholes rather than parts. So not individual doing a part, but looking at it as a whole, a kind of holistic. So it has to be holistic. So you also need to consider relationships rather than isolated elements. So we also need to look at the patterns of change rather than just a static snapshot. Because there is a saying that when you look at the whole is always greater than individual parts. In science, we call it a kind of synergy. So when you look at it, a synergy is always more than the additive kind of interaction between parameters. So just to give some basic definition of system thinking, so as I said earlier, it's an approach that views problems as part of an overall system. So the key concept there in our interconnectivity between different disciplines, feedback loops, you need to get feedbacks, and holistic perspectives, looking at it as a whole. And also emphasizing on the relationships over isolated components. So this is very crucial in our modern science. Why? Because it enables researchers to tackle complex issues by understanding the interplay. There's always a kind of interplay between various elements in the system. Just like when you look at the system, for instance, you consider the circulatory system, so you have to look at the veins, the arteries and all. So everything they are working together for a purpose. So we also need to look at our research from that perspective. So I think I will try to skip this to talk because so one thing, key principles that are involved when we talk about systems thinking is the interdependence. So we have to depend on each other, we interact. So what do you say about this problem? So we look at it from different perspectives. So when we do this, because we have to realize that they are interdependent, such that elements influence one another. And also we need to get feedbacks from other people also as well. So this will reinforce or strengthen the kind of balanced dynamics that is required. And of course we are not talking about you are not talking about linearity. It's not just about A causes B. But what are other things that are involved in solving this situation? So we talk about small changes that can have large effects, and of course emergence. So we look at the systems level, and of course, so things keep changing and evolving over time. Just for you to have a kind of the difference between when we think linearly and when we look at systems thinking. So you can see some of these differences. So in linear thinking, you only talk about cause and effect. A causes B. But in reality, it doesn't actually, it's not like that in reality. So you have to look at circular causality. A lot of things are involved. So not just only one cause. You talk about the discipline specific. So everyone is just focusing on nursing, on biochemistry, physiology, and so on and so forth, independently. That is linear thinking. But the way we should think is a kind of cross-boundary. Look at it from different perspectives, and then we can actually get the overview, a holistic overview of the problem we are trying to solve. And also when you look at the system, linear thinking, you always end up with a kind of short-term focus. You're only looking at it from short-term. But if you want to actually look at it from long-term, so you have to think about system thinking. So a kind of transdisciplinary approach. So in linear thinking, it's always about predict and control. You all know, you always know what you want to control. So I want to control this, I want to see the impact of so on knowledge, attitude and practice. You already have an idea of what you are going to get. So this is kind of researches, we are all doing at the moment, but we need to change, so we have to learn and adapt. So, and of course, linear thinking is all about reductionist, as I've said earlier, but we have to be holistic. So let me quickly talk about what is meant to carry out transdisciplinary approaches. So, of course, people talk about monodiscipline, multidisciplinary, and inter. So I will talk about each of these. So when we talk about multidisciplinarity, so that means you have different disciplines, but they are working in parallel. I will show one illustration to illustrate that after this. So we also have what we call interdisciplinary. So in this context, so we are talking about disciplines, but they are able to integrate the methods and theory, but they are still not like, getting to the right, the best approach. But the best approach is transdisciplinary, such that you integrate academics and non-academic knowledge. So you don't look at it from academic perspective, but you look at it from non-academic perspective. So you, at the end of the day, so you are going to, so the knowledge creation that we are going to have will be very holistic. Rather, not only from academics, but even from non-academics, from the perspective of the policymakers, the investors. So all these have to be considered. And of course, we are focusing on real-world problems, not, just a kind of abstract, problem. Sometimes we just create a problem that doesn't exist, just for us to come up with a thesis and then get our certificates. That is what we do most of the times. So we have to solve real-world problems. So this is kind of, it's not really very good, but you can see some of the diagrams. So this is individual disciplines, everyone doing things on their own, separately. But when you now talk about multidisciplinary, so now they are trying, even they still parallel, but they are not working together. But when you talk about interdisciplinary, so there is some sort of integration, but still not the best approach. The best approach should be transdisciplinary. We talk about not only the academics, even the non-academics, the investors, the society. So everybody must be involved. You can see during the pandemic, not only from the scientists, so a lot of people are also involved, even the people in the society. So everyone must be on the same page, otherwise we will not be able to solve the real world problems. So that is the kind of mindset or a kind of paradigm, paradigm shift that we have to target. So just to give some, so what are the characteristics of transdisciplinary science? So this kind of science is basically characterized by the integration of knowledge across disciplines, different disciplines. So different, facets of life. So there should be collaboration. People working together among various stakeholders. And also the emphasis will be on real-world problems and solutions, real-world and solutions, impact-oriented research that solve real problems, that solve existing problems, or the kind of problem that we are envisaging that will, come up in the next, maybe in future. So, and the role of this kind of research or this kind of thinking is that it will be able to address complex issues. So transdisciplinary approaches are vital, very important for tackling complex societal issues. Why? Because they are able to bring together diverse, different perspectives and also different expertise. So that will foster innovative solutions that single disciplinary may overlook or may not be able to address. And as we said, so why do we have to look at issues from this kind of angle or perspective? So when we talk about transdisciplinary research, so what it requires is a kind of shared problem. When we frame the problem, we must all see it as our problem, a shared problem, not only the scientist problem or the society problem, or just they and we. No, it has to be kind of shared, decision, a shared problem framing. So when we frame the problem, we have to look at it together. And integration of diverse forms of knowledge, that is when the knowledge can actually be impactful, or impact-oriented. And that is what is actually meant by systems thinking, or system-wide consequences. So, and what do we mean by that? So it provides a kind of common language. I mean, we speak from the same, with the same, mind. So, like we tell it, like-minded. So we are speaking from like-minded people because we share the same, thinking. And also tools for boundary crossing. So you have to look at, it has to be even across boundaries. So you don't set a limit to yourself and then you work in a silo. So that is, that will not take us to the promised land. And of course, so it provides also methods for collective sense making. If you want to make sense, give sense to the kind of research we are doing. So the models, there are a few models for collaborative research. So collaborative research models basically promote shared goals, as I've said earlier. So the goals is shared. So, and also the teams will be interdisciplinary, different disciplines. The academics are involved, the non-academics, the investors, the policy makers. So everyone thinking, looking at things, of course, from different perspectives, but solving the same problem and coming up with different solutions that can actually make a real impact. And collective impact strategies. And of course, this will enable researchers and practitioners to align their efforts towards common objectives, rather than everyone doing their things on their own. So we have a lot of examples of such projects. So just like, talk about the example of the pandemics. So we all know what different parts of the world did and how we are able to tackle the problems. So just coming to the end of my sharing, I will make it as brief as possible. So overcoming silos in science, so what do we need to do? So there are a lot of barriers that we have to overcome, so before we can eventually achieve this interdisciplinary collaboration. So most scientists, as we see, they still operate within specific disciplines. So everyone doing things on their own, separately and independently. And these are leading to a lot of communication gaps. We are not communicating. So we don't see things the way other people see things. So these barriers, they often prevent or hinder the kind of collaborative efforts that are required. And of course, when we have such problems, it will limit the potential for comprehensive research outcomes. So the impact, it also has a very great impact on the innovation. That's why the kind of innovation that are coming up from the university, we are not living up to, to the task or up to the expectation, what is expected of us as academics. So we have to come up with innovative solutions that are able to solve real-world problems that are very impactful. So the acceleration of disciplines restrict the flow of ideas, and this will result in slower progress in research. And of course, so this siloed approach will definitely lead to a lot of duplicated efforts. So most people, they are doing the same thing that other people have done, even in the same place. So it's just, everyone is just maybe after the thesis or the certificate, but not solving real-world problems. And this also, we are missing a lot of opportunities for groundbreaking innovations. So the strategies is, we have to promote communication amongst the various disciplines. So we sit together, discuss ideas, and discuss solutions to existing problems. So we have to promote open communication. So we cannot be shallow-minded. So we have to be open-minded, listen to others, see from their perspectives, see how we can integrate their ideas into ours, and see how we can come up with real or impactful solutions to our real-world problems. So encouraging open dialogue and establishing common objectives among different disciplines. So this will foster the kind of collaboration that is expected of academics. And this approach definitely will help to build trust and mutual understanding. And definitely it will lead to more effective teamwork rather than everyone doing their things on their own. So we have the technology that is advancing and evolving every now and then. So this is something that we can also leverage. So leveraging technology for collaboration. So you can utilize the advancing digital tools and platforms. So you don't need to even travel before you can talk to some other people at different parts of the world. So we can utilize and leverage this technology to achieve the required collaboration. So technologies such as collaborative software, virtual meetings now make it easier even for researchers to connect and share their insights efficiently. So we don't have the communication barrier can be breached. So systems thinking helped him to move from what is my problem. So you don't see problem as your own personal problem or as our problem. So it should be a kind of shared problems. So we have to move from my disciplinary problem to what it is, what we are trying to transform. It has to be holistic. So to conclude my my slides, so the takeaway from my sharing, which I also I will appreciate feedback and comments from other perspectives, so is that transdisciplinary solutions to complex global challenges are not possible without systems thinking. So you have to look at it from the perspective of systems. So holistic. So moving beyond, and if you want to move beyond our current situation, silos that we are working, so it requires a shift in our mindset. So it has to be a great paradigm shift, and we have to have a new institutional arrangements. So, and of course, we have to be really committed to collaboration and learning. So many times we have to unlearn and relearn. So you cannot just stick to the same way and expecting, impactful, solutions or researches to real world problems. So finally, on a final note, so if the problems are systemic and complex, as we have seen or as we know, then the solutions also must be systemic. And systems thinking is the bridge to transdisciplinary impact. And with that, I end my talk. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Dr. Idris, for this very inspiring topics and very inspiring to all our participants. Okay, can we proceed with the, is there any question?
Yes.
Okay, we really like to have some feedback from you all, so that it's not only you gain the knowledge, but our friends also gain the knowledge, and it's also part of our role so that we can share our knowledge. So before you can ask the questions, can you please introduce yourself and where you come from, so that at least we know how to address everybody, and when they can have some networking, it will be very very good. Okay, you can start.
Myself, Dr. Asya from Central University of Kashmir, India. So it was really very insightful talk. I have a small query. Usually the challenge related to this transdisciplinary approach to problem solving remains how because it involves many groups. So how to manage those groups, how to keep them focused towards the problem. So I think it's the main challenge. Can you suggest some ways how to tackle this problem? How to keep them focused, because with time they lose their enthusiasm.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dr. Asia, for that beautiful thoughts. yeah, it's always a challenge. But one thing is that if we don't start, so we have to start from somewhere. So I can share maybe some little insight from what is being done when I was with University Malaya. So in fact, at the university itself, they have some funds, and this fund, they already set some kind of, criteria. Before you can apply for the funds, the minimum number of faculties that must be involved is 3. So they already set the requirement. So someone from one faculty cannot come and apply for the grant. So you have to, minimum is 3 different faculties. So that means you are solving the same problem from different perspectives. I remember the last one when I was there. So we got 309,000 ringgit for our research. And we have people from medicine, people from dentistry, I think from social science also, and of course we are from natural product, which is allied sciences. So the university has to initiate, come up with the initiatives, and then from there, so we, of course, one of the grant also was that you must have industry collaborator. Another grant is you must have someone from outside the country. So these are the various ways that the university can come up with to encourage this kind of research thinking. So that is what I can share. So I don't know if anyone also has things to share.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Idris. Is it okay? Answer yeah? All right. Okay. Any more questions from the floor? Yes.
Good morning, Mr. My name is Emilia from Mystikus Dharma. I want to ask to Professor, how do system thinking affect research, data sharing, or scientific progress? Thank you.
Yeah, it's a very, very good question, because one thing that we are very particular about is how do I protect my intellectual property, the data that are generated from research. So you don't want it to be leaked out and then other people can steal it from you. So of course, that's why we have to, when we are working from we have the same mindset, we are solving the same problems. So one of the things that we must have is trust. So there must be mutual trust between the various members. So if the members understand each other and we are solving the same problem and we have the same goal, so we will not have someone to leak out the data. So your data will be protected. So because it's always a conflict. So when you are working with many people, so you have to come to an understanding. So what's going to be your contribution, and what everyone must contribute, and what does everyone maybe stand to gain from the contribution. So everything must be clear, and it must be documented, and of course there will be some kind of signing, maybe MOU, memorandum of understanding, as the case may be, or some kind of you cannot declare. They call it NDA, non-disclosure agreement. What is it? Agreement. Yeah, thank you very much. So these are the kind of things that will be put in place to safeguard and protect everyone's interests and goal. So if all these are understood and properly implemented, then we will achieve our goal. So, thank you very much.
Yes, Doctor. Okay.
Hi, good morning everyone, and I'd like to take this opportunity to translate perhaps the query of our very good colleague. Just like yesterday's session, if I may raise it as a point of case, that in terms of innovation, like something new that we are going to introduce, maybe at the undergraduate or like graduate or master's or even PhD level, it's very important that an NDA has to be prepared by the institution, and make sure that all who are there present must sign. That's more of the legality in terms of the new ideas presented because it is yours. So back in the Philippines, we are emphasizing that also, that there is an office responsible for that, and all of the offices must be aware that we protect the idea, the concept even, and the whole thing about new innovation that arises from a student's work or even a faculty's work or a professional's work. So NDA, as mentioned, is very important. That's why in the case of one presenter yesterday about innovation, my concern was, have you done patent search? Have you had the NDA? Because she presented it in a crowd already yesterday. So good enough that they are protected by the document that they have already worked on with the process of, I think that's copyright. Yeah, so therefore it is a protection for the product of our mind, and that is your right. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for the contribution. I think we can go to the second speaker so that we can see.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Idris, and thank you for all those questions. Okay, we move to the next presenter. That is in relation, because I already discussed with the speakers. So we're going to move into the second presenter, that is Dr. Rita Dewi Pratiwi, right? Okay, this is because Dr. Idris has mentioned about the lateral thinking, the system thinking, and in order to produce high impact innovation, right? So when you have that high impact innovation, so the question was asked, how are we going to maintain that high impact, our high impact output? How can we control? So the next speaker will tell you about how can we protect our rights on our product. That is how we're going to register with our intellectual property rights. All right. So without any this one, I would like to present our second speakers. You want me to read the biodata, or you want to introduce yourself? So I have to get closer. Okay, welcome Dr. Rita. Dr. Rita is our scholar from Lincoln. Congratulations for that. She has more than 8 years experience in nursing science and nursing education. She is graduated with the Best Bachelor of Internship Nursing student from Gajah Mada, University Indonesia in 2011. And she completed her Master in Nursing in Child Nursing at the Turkey Akdeniz University, which is in Turkey. During her studies in Turkey, she received an international scholarship, congratulations, and was recognized as the best graduated student and won the best research for the thesis competition. She is an active member of several professional scientific associations, including the Indonesian National Nurse Association. She also actively participates in congress, research conferences, and community service initiatives. Dr. Rita provides research supervisions to undergraduate students, conducting both qualitative and quantitative studies, and has published several national and international journals. She has received numerous research grants, in Indonesia, including community service grants from Indonesian Ministry of Education, Culture, Research and Technology, as well as BKKBN under the Beginners Lecturers Research Schemes, the Fundamental Research Scheme, and as well as National Competitive Basic Research Scheme. Congratulations for the very long CV. So now, without any further ado, please.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much, Professor Sandipoda, Professor Dr. Muhammad Said, Faridah Muhammad Said, Prof. Santana, Professor Dr. Datin Hafizah, Dr. Idris, all the speakers here, Dr. Neil also, the participants here. Okay, and in the morning, thank you for the chance because I have an opportunity. I don't want to teach the participants here or attenders, but we can just sharing about the intellectual property rights for registrations in Indonesia, because every countries maybe have a different policy in the government like that. Yes, maybe in Malaysia we have the different policy to register the patent, trademark on the property right or copyright. So this is just reference in Indonesia. Okay, in these sessions I want to share about how to register IPR, intellectual property right, to get copyright certificate special reference to Indonesia. Maybe everyone here have a creations or have a product, so we have to how to protect with the legal protections or informal protections our productions or our creations like that. So the others cannot plagiarism or cannot copy paste of our product like that. So if we have a product or creation, so how to get the protection, how to register by the legal policy like that. This is about my sharing, because in my institutions we have the account to register for get the protections in Indonesia by the institution, not by the persons online. Okay. What are the benefit for protections of our product or creations by the legal? Because we know the expertise rewards every academic position of lecturer need for increase the functional or increase for the career in institution like that. So we need to get a copyright or get to intellectual property right to academic positions in institutions like that. Maybe in other countries similar with Indonesia. And for university accreditations maybe between the Indonesia and the other country like that similar also. University accreditations in Indonesia, we need from the standard 7 standard or 8 standard, need about the output of the results, the quantity or the quality of the intellectual property right. We count how many quantity and how about the quality of the property right certificate. So if we calculate, if we have in institutions, we have so many copyright certificates, so our accreditation may be the point increase. And about the research performance or clusterizations in Indonesia, also in Indonesia called Sinta. Sinta is about to count about the research performance cluster of institutions. So how many quantity of the certificate of copyrights in institution we have more point in accreditation, also in the cluster of Sinta in institution about research performance of institution. And then university ranking in Indonesia also depend on the quality and the quantities of the copyright certificates. And then all of the overall of all of this, So our university can get the outstandings or foremost and about the rank in the world like web biometrics. Then how about the benefits of copyrights? For the first, about provides legal protections for creative works, and about the provide legal protection of our productions. Like if we want to sell our productions for trading, so we have to protect our products. Maybe in Indonesia we have foremost like forgive me, like chat time drink. So everyone can make a chat time or drink type of the drinks. Boba, do you know boba? Yes, boba. Everyone can make like that. So we have to protect. This is my mark. And Indonesians, I have also products of drink. My products, the name Istanbul, and I also get trademarks of the Istanbul. My products. We have mini industrial in my family. We have three trademarks in my family. Istanbul, Roja ice cream, also Bau Clue, products of the perfume. So everyone can make like that. So how to protect our legal? By registration of copyright certificates. And for the second, recognize the moral and economic rights to creators. Because maybe if we have a products or creations, but do you have the legal protections? This is make more interesting and more outstanding or more foremost if we have the legal protections. Everyone can make a copyright certificates, but sometimes someone didn't know about how to register. This is easy, I think easy, but depend on can we have registers, can we have the account, maybe in Lincoln University College Malaysia have account for the registration, Prof. Farida, Prof. Santana, Dr. Sandip, yes. Because in the previous times, I and Dr. Sandip have copyright certificates from Indonesia together, 2 persons. And research and innovations, yes. Like Indonesia, under in the research and innovations. And encourages creativity and innovations, protect against plagiarism and illegal copying, increases economic potential through the creativity industry, ensures legal certainty for third parties, and build a fair legal ecosystem. Then, intellectual property is born from human intellectual ability, the result of human thought, has economic benefits and value, because before we sell our products, so better we have to the legal protections. And produce, exploited, utilities, traded, and licensed. Sometimes in Indonesia we found the conflict of interest. The seller between seller one and the other sellers. Oh, this is my product, not your product. But if maybe someone can copy of the other's products. So this is maybe not false. Why? Why? Because the one seller